By request, I am going to show my warm-up routine. This is going to be kind of a long video, so hang with it. If not, get out now because it's probably going to be pretty boring for you if you don't care about how I warm up. So to start, there's a band. I think this is it would be a light band. It's not, I'm trying to remember on the West Side standards, it's not a Monster Mini. This is actually I don't know, it might be a mini band or a light band. I can't remember which one. Maybe mini. In any case, it's pretty hard to move this, but I'll start with some band pull parts uh, up to in front of my chest, and then I'll pull kind of down and kind of widen my arms out to just get the shoulders loosened up at the top. I'll do that kind of putting the band down where the bar would be placed on my squats. Then I'll start to go in and out with the band in the squat bar position. It just helps me loosen up my shoulders in that area. Pretty much what my goal is during my workout or warm-ups is to just get all the areas that feel tight or stiff loosened up. So from some of the extra squatting and benching that I've been doing lately, I've been noticing my neck gets a little tight. And so I've started stretching out just the sides of my neck a little bit. I didn't always used to do this, but as you find new things that get tight or sore on you in your training, you're going to have to add in new parts to your training. Now here you'll see I'm kind of doing almost what you'll see Olympic lifters do with a bar, except I have to use a band because I'm so stiff I can't get my shoulders to rotate all the way around. And this is really to help me start retracting my scapula as well as open up my shoulders a little more. You'll notice as I do this also that I'm bracing. You'll see my stomach out there really far. Through my entire warm-up, I'm focusing on my breathing as well. It's not just about warming up the shoulders when you're doing those exercises, band pull-aparts or anything else. You should also be focusing on your breathing, bracing, getting that deep belly breath in, flexing the obliques, expanding in a 360-degree out. So you're pushing out your back muscles, your obliques, your abs. Everything's getting tight, and you're getting used to that deep breathing. These aren't quite face pulls, they're just kind of overhead pulls. You'll see I kind of will work out the sides of my delts. Anything that feels tight, there I'll pull my back arm forward, and so I'm getting a stretch that runs up through my lat, up into my shoulder as well. Get both sides that way. And again, you'll see me, I'm pretty stiff, especially in my upper back when I start these workouts, and so it doesn't look like I'm stretching a lot, but it's stretching for me. From there, I'll do some just opening up the hips, swinging the legs side to side. When I do this, I try not to get too much momentum, and I really try to squeeze my glute as I'm pulling my leg up. That mirrors the external rotation, and when you kind of dig your feet and root yourself into the ground, twist your feet, externally rotate, you need to have your glutes activate as well. And you'll see in theory, I should do these with my leg not bent like it is here, straight. But again, my hamstrings are so tight, I kind of have to bend my leg a little bit to get the full hip mobility and the swing there of the hip. So I'll do usually 10 or 15 each side. Sometimes I'll do them, you see the mirror there on the left, I'll face the mirror and just go forward and backwards instead of side to side. But on this day, my hips were feeling pretty good, so I went straight into these overhead squats. A lot of these exercises you may have seen from other lifters. Chris Duffin has a workout or a warm-up workout that mirrors a lot of these exercises. A lot of his stuff is really good. You should check out his channel if you haven't already. In these overhead squats, these are taxing because I'm bracing as well as I'm doing these exercises. Each time I come up, I'm taking a new breath, and I'm making sure that I'm working my abs, expanding in 360 degrees. And I will hang out at the bottom for depth a little bit, but honestly, depth is not really a big factor when you're bracing properly because your hips are going to be in a good position. You'll see there I take a big breath because I'm out of breath. I'm actually starting to sweat already at this point. Here you see, I think if these were done properly, you would call these airplanes because you'd have your hands out to the side and you'd look like an airplane tilting back and forth. But really what the point of these are is you're moving your, I guess your femur around in your hip socket, and you're just making sure that the ball of that femur is all the way up into your hip so that it can go through a full range of motion without impingement. And so with those, you just kind of move around side to side, or at least I do, until I feel like everything is moving past each other correctly, that everything's sliding properly and I don't feel any weird twinges or pinches or anything like that in my hips. And once that gets opened up and everything's in tight, then I know that I'm going to be able to go through a full range of motion as best that I can with my bone structure. It's kind of amazing to me how the shoulders and the hips, they really can get kind of loose or kind of out, and you need to really get things all the way into the sockets where they should be so that you can go through a full range of motion without impingement. You'll see here, I think some people call these no monies. You kind of put your hands, you put your palms up, and then you rotate around your elbows, just at your shoulders. Here, just some basic, put your arm in a circle. Make sure everything's loose. I don't like to do any foam rolling before my workouts, only because I found that foam rolling actually makes me a little sore. And so I like to do foam rolling about 24 hours before a workout at least. And I just do some movements back and forth to get warmed up. I don't like a lot of static stuff, though I'll have a little bit in there. Mostly I like to just get the joints warmed up and get the blood flowing so I'm ready to work. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's all I do for the pre-bar warm-up. So after that, I'll go and start with just an empty bar or 135, kind of depending on how I feel for the day. It's hard for me usually on these first reps to get the bar low enough to where I would actually like it on my shoulders. I usually need 135 on there at least to give me a little bit extra weight to push against. I have my wrist wraps on for all of my warm-up sets, and they're tight. And the reason I do that is because, again, because of stiffness, I just hurt my wrists when I'm starting to warm up. Even if I do band pull parts, even if I'm doing overhead squats, even if I roll out the day before, it does not matter. The benching that I do and the upper back work that I have in my programs, it just beats me up, and it takes a little while to get used to squatting. That said, I'll start with the bar, then move up 135, and just continue to do some warm-up sets. You'll notice on these I'm still bracing the same way. You'll notice I approach the bar seriously every time. I get under here, I pull everything tight, I brace before I come up with the bar. I unrack the bar the same way every time. Doesn't matter if it's an empty bar, doesn't matter if it's 135, doesn't matter if it's 600 pounds. It's always the same, and that's something that's very important. On these, I'll go a little fast. You'll see some posterior pelvic tilt here. Again, some of that's because it's hard to load under a bar that's so light. Things scale as you get stronger, and so kind of 135, 225, 315, they all feel about the same. They kind of feel like just a bar. Used to feel back when I was not as strong, and so it's hard to get everything tight. My attempt is in my warm-ups to get as tight as possible. It's not a good thing to get used to only using proper form with heavy weights, because then you're patterning a different movement pattern through all your warm-ups. But I have noticed that I have more tail tuck on some of my warm-ups than I do with my other working sets. And again, it's because it's light at the top and I'm not bracing as hard. That's something that I have to work on. That said, this is what warm-ups look like for me. We'll start with just some basic warm-ups. And right here, pulling up your shirt sleeves. Some people think that's kind of goofy, like you're trying to show off your arms while you're squatting. That's not the point at all. If you're wearing a tight shirt or a shirt that fits tight around your shoulders or your armpits, it can actually be hard to retract your scapula and pull your shoulders into a good position if you're pulling against the fabric of the shirt as well. It's only a small difference, but if you wear a looser shirt sometimes and a tighter shirt other times when you go to the gym, just make sure you're able to get your shoulders in the same position without stretching the fabric across your chest. It can become, I've seen it impact both my squat setup and my bench setup, where I've not been able to tuck my shoulder blades as much in some of the tighter shirts that I'll wear, especially if they're cotton or if they have any sort of polymer blend with the cotton. It's kind of spandexy. It'll almost pull on you and pull you out of position. That said, usually I'll go to 135, 225, 315, 405 before I start doing plate and a quarter. I don't advise that for everybody. Again, that's because of how many warm-up sets I would have to take if I went plate, quarter, instead of just throwing a plate on each time. The number of reps that I do in those warm-up sets with the weight is dependent on how I feel for the day. If I feel like I need to do more reps, 5, 6, 7, usually I don't do sets of 10 except with the bar or 135, but it'll depend on the day. Also, if I'm doing pause squats, I'll start pausing some of them. If I'm just doing a regular squat, I'll do regular. If I was doing high bar or a variation, all of my warm-ups would be high bar or a variation. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Hope wherever you're at, you're doing well. Blessings.